This is Mike.
Hello.
Right, okay, so this is Mike's box here, box of goodies. This is the camera here that he's going to be using. Yeah, and he's just going to walk you through.
Okay, so in the box you get the you've got the gimbal itself, which is this part, which I'm going to take out. I've got it like stuck together. A lot of the newer ones, like the Crane and the Ronin S, the smaller one, I think it's an SE, that comes with where you can lock these motors into place and you don't have to keep this around it. But for the Ronin S, it stays loose. So then we have the battery pack, and then we have a small tripod, which is also a handle which attaches to the bottom. I've got a cable which you plug into the camera so you can start, stop, record, and on certain models you can do focusing and or zoom. And a penny, which is always really important for tripods and plates. So for this camera, the lens makes it actually larger than the body itself. So the Ronin actually does come with a little plate to put underneath, and that goes in between the base plate, which we have here, and the camera itself. Now, you don't have to use that if you're using a camera where the lens doesn't go lower than the actual body itself. So first of all, I'm just putting the plate onto the camera. You can see, very simple, like you've all done before. Okay, I'm going to start with it like quite far forward, the plate, because this is quite top heavy, this camera. So then I'm going to start by assembling the gimbal. So we put in the battery attached to the handle, and this applies to a lot of them. I think it works with the Crane as well the same way. And then we have the body itself, which would then slide into this part, and it has a lock function there. So we'll just slide it in, snap it on, and then you've got that basically assembled. And then you can pop out these feet to stand it up. So we'll keep it like this while we're balancing it. I'll take off the Velcro, which holds it together, and then we'll begin balancing. So you've got 3 axes with this. You've got a pan, tilt, and a roll axis. So you can move 360 degrees, which I'm sure a lot of you will know. And this is the way that it sits. If you let go, it'll sort of like just bob around. So we're going to slide the plate in there, and it has a quick release function, so it now won't come out unless we press this button here, and then you can slide it back out. So we're going to slide it in, and then we're going to, first of all, we're going to balance this part. So we're going to hold this motor. This is one of your motors. We're going to hold this in place so nothing else is moving but this arm here. And at the same time, so we've got like a hand on here, a finger holding this, and then the body. And then we're just going to move it until you can feel that it doesn't want to swing forward or back. So you can see it's still sort of going forward, so I'll move it back. But the key to this, and the key to balancing any gimbal, is minor adjustments. So you just make the small adjustments because you can't go too far the other way. So here we are, and that looks about balanced on that front plate. So then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to balance this, which is the tilt axis. Just move the chair. So again, we're going to hold this motor in place, and you can see right now what we want is this to stay top facing upwards. I'm just going to take the lens cap off. Right. So we want this to keep facing upwards. So we will unscrew this part and push this until we start to feel it swing towards the other way or to balance. And you can see it's still leaning forward. So I'm holding this motor in place. I'm moving this small adjustments until it stops swinging forward. And I think that looks about balanced. So I'm going to screw that one down. and that seems balanced there. Now if I let go, it will tilt this way, and that is so we can now balance the roll axes. Because we've just put this on now and balanced the tilt axes, sometimes it may start to get top heavy again, so then we will just move the camera back another tiny bit, and there it is balanced.
It's a thing that you said to me, wasn't it, that like if it's going forward,
If it leans forward, you want to move it backwards, and if it leans backwards, you need to move it forwards, just to counter that until it balances. And the key to it really is just the minor adjustments that you make. And I mean, this gimbal, they are really sturdy in there, which also makes it quite difficult to move through. So the main thing is just to hold the motor and move the little adjustment through there. Now, so I can feel that this is going to the side. If I let it go, it's going that way. So what I'm going to do is hold that where I want it to be. I'm going to move this arm, which is the roll axis, along until it starts to go the other way, or to balance. And there we are. It's about balanced. It's leaning a bit the other way. So I've gone a little bit too far. So again, it's just minor adjustments. So I'm holding this and moving the other arm a tiny bit.
so it's
And now it looks balanced.
Yeah.
From on this arm. So then I'm going to screw that in again, set that, and then the last axis we have to balance is the pan. And to do that, there are a couple of ways, but I find the easiest way is to adjust your tripod part so the front leg is facing forward, and then to lean it at 45 degrees. When you lean at 45 degrees, what you want it to do is not to swing. So you see, as I do this, it's swinging to one side. So then you can tell, as it's leaning that way, we need to push the arm backwards. And if you keep it lean to one side and try to keep it leaning forward, to point straight forwards, then you can feel the same thing as the other two arms, where you can feel it moving and you can tell that it's starting to swing the other direction or to stay still. So I think that looks about right.
So in terms of like what this does, where you're trying to swing it so that it does that, why is this part important?
So the pan axis is one of the the main parts that you're going to be using, which is panning the camera around on a sort of horizontal, and to balance it is the most important thing, to balance it correctly, so that nothing's sort of moving and the motors aren't working harder than they need to, because it is a powerful bit of kit. So we have that, what looks like it looks balanced now, and you should be able to then just pop the camera at any angle and it should sort of hold where it is. That's rolling a little bit that way. But I think this is close enough. We can stand it upright and it's not moving on its own. So then the next thing to do would be to turn it on. Does anyone have any questions about that balancing now?
Anyone? No?
Are we all good with that?
Oh, they're all on mute. So I'm just
all
gonna
clear.
take it.
Yeah.
I'm taking it. Everybody's fine.
Cool. Okay. So then the next thing we do is turn on the battery pack here. There is a button here which will turn on. Hold that.
Where was that? Oh, that was down
Just here. Okay. And then the next thing we do is to turn on the gimbal with the on button, which is here, and we hold that until these lights go on and we get a beep. So now you can see that it's moving with the joystick that we have, and you can rotate around, up and down. Now I would set this to, I have this set on pan follow, so I'm not following the tilt because I'm not trying to do a Dutch angle. I am trying to just have it still level every time I move it. you can have it on pan and tilt follow, and then this tilt axis will go with you that way. But right at the moment, we can lean forward and the camera will slowly follow our movements and back, and we can go right and left, and it will slowly follow where we are. There's this end button, this manual, or what they call sport mode. If you hold that, the camera will go much faster and go with you, so that you can film things close by, moving, and get that more dramatic look. But if you let go, it then starts to follow slowly again, giving you that cinematic look.
Right.
Okay, so I'm just going to stand it there. I'm just going to pop in the cable so we can start and stop recording, which is that spot here.
All right.
And then we'll put that in the camera.
Oh, I didn't even realise that you had to plug that in.
So it's not absolutely essential. I don't think Razer uses one, for example.
Yeah.
But they are just helpful to be able to start and stop record. I don't have a focus wheel. I think I bought this gimbal for like £450. I think it's about 650 with a focus wheel. But
what's a focus wheel for everybody? Right.
So you get a wheel on the side of here, which you can use to manage your focus while working. But what I find doing events and things that I do, it's more handy just to have a good autofocus system, and that is why I've shelled out to get the native Sony lens, so that I can have decent autofocus while working. I think that's about all of our setup.
Right, great.
I think.
Okay.
We've got the trigger. We'll show you more of this when we're out. There's a trigger on the front. So 2 taps of that will reset it to looking straight forward. And 3 taps will give you a selfie mode. Yeah, YouTube mode. And then if you hold it down, it will keep the camera completely level, so you can turn it into a low mode without the camera turning itself. And you can walk, do some like low movements, or you can do something that I've seen Fraser do a few times with us when we're on a dance floor, and you pan across people's feet and then up here to get them reaching for the lasers.
Great.
So I think we're about
ready.
set up.
Yeah, good. Because I can't move around this living room too much. So we're ready to go. Okay.
They're about ready to go out.
All right. While we're walking, because we can't really do anything whilst we're walking to our fields, if you guys have any questions, now's a good time to ask a few questions while we're walking. We can walk and talk.
Okay, I have one.
Yep.
You know how you can control the camera settings, like zooming in and out, and when to start and stop recording, like from the gimbal? Is that only for Sony cameras?
It works for a lot of different cameras, but you have to get a different cable. And you can pick those up at about £15–20 off Amazon or from Wex or somewhere like that. They are quite cheap compared to getting the full set with the autofocus that comes in at like £200 more. So I think it's worth having the cable. I went back and got it about 2 months after I'd had the gimbal, I think. So I was working with it, just making longer clips by just starting and stopping recording on the back of the camera. But it is very handy to have that cable and being able to do that.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I know that I guess like it comes with practice, but like how long do you think it would take to set up like and balance the whole gimbal when you're like on a shoot?
Yeah, so on a shoot, I think it probably takes me about 5–10 minutes now to get it perfect. And you'll just get faster as you go along. But when I bought this, there are like a lot of tutorials on, and there's like a DJI, the brand that make it, official one as well. There are many videos out there, and it's just when you've got one, I mean, if you're hiring it, maybe it's worth hiring the night before and just spending half an hour to an hour just setting it up and take it apart and move the arms around again. It's worth practicing, and then it doesn't take that long when you're on a job.
My other question is like, I know some equipment can be kind of heavy. Like, how easy is that to move around and to film with?
Yeah, that is a really good point. They are quite heavy. So Ronin have made a smaller, much cheaper one actually. I think it's about £250, which is good if you're just using DSLR and then maybe like a prime lens or something. But the weight that it can hold is much less than this one itself. Like we've actually been into the studio and we managed to fit this C100 on this, I think. But yeah, it is quite heavy. So you don't want to be operating it for ages at a time. A full day will really knack you. So you need to maybe work on your arms and abs. So I think a big part of working this is being tensing your core and walking where you're working sort of heel to toe, just balancing your weight evenly and just taking it slowly, putting it down when you're not using it, and trying to something which I struggle with doing myself, I guess, is having the exact shot in your mind before you start doing it, and then it takes fewer goes to get the shot. Yeah, does that help?
Yeah.
So yeah, what type of shoots would you use the gimbal for in particular?
I mean, I've seen them used a lot with music videos and things where you want to have a lower budget but still get a sort of a really good stable effect. They're quite cheap to buy considering what other equipment costs, and then they're quite, if you hire one on Fat Llama or something, it's going to be quite a bit cheaper, but we use them for events. We've used them for ads and things where we're just doing beauty shots of businesses. We've also used them for interviews where you've got a B camera where usually that might be on a slider. You actually have a lot more freedom to move around if you've got the gimbal. So if you're doing a relatively short interview, your B camera that might have been on a slider or on another tripod, it's nice to I do that a few times, is just having to walk around with the gimbal, trying to get some flares or get an interesting angle, and you end up looking like you've got a higher quality production because you've got different angles, I guess, rather than just the two.
I have a question that I guess is a bit similar to Ruben's. Would you say that it's worth using a gimbal when you shoot situations that you can't really set up for? For example, if it's a very heavily action-based documentary or actuality where you have to move a lot, maybe run, or you're in a vehicle and you want to stabilize your shots, would that work?
Yeah, this does actually have a car mode, so it can combat quite a lot of movement and shaking and whatnot. So yeah, it's something where you can it's quite versatile. I think you can run with this. If I've run with it before, and I've also fallen with it. I fell up some stairs at the Brixton Academy shooting a show there. But it's it is heavy, but it's just the more you use it, the more you'll get used to the weight and everything, and keeping an eye on the the monitor as well as where you're walking. But I think the main thing is you probably do this a lot as well. If you're tracking or moving with a camera, then you'll have someone holding you back a lot of the time as well, or just making sure that you're not going into something. So I think it's just having a bit of help around there. But equally, they're good for use on your own as well, I think.
Great. All right. Is that all the questions for now? And we can hold the other questions for after this.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mike, I think the first thing that I found the most interesting that you showed me was how to walk with your feet. Right. Because that's that's quite a skill first, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So
maybe I can just hang on. If I try and take the camera down, then I could see your feet. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you can walk normally with this and get quite stabilized shots, but you're still going to get a little bit of movement in there. Whereas if you walk sort of heel to toe, You know, like make sure that like your steps are really sort of measured, and also bend your knees and just work with a straight back, tense core, and slowly heel to toe movement. And that seems to work pretty well.
And then if we just start off with some very basic moves that you kind of showed me
Okay.
the other day. So like one of the first moves that you showed me, which
So like there's the first one, I guess, is like a follow or a push in, pull out kind of thing, where let me just
I would show you the screen, by the way, what he's looking at, but it's too bright, so you're not going to be able to see. So you're just going to have to visualize what it looks like, but it does look really good. I might be able to show you a bit when we go in a bit darker.
I mean, we can upload this footage.
Yeah.
Or like the one we did the other week.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm rolling on here. So just a simple push in, holding the center, tense your core, bent knees straight back, walking very measured, and that's your sort of push. Oh, and you can do that from the side, and then you can sometimes use a wipe if you're walking by something, and get a natural wipe into the cut, which is helpful. And when you move, so you can push in, and then you can move around, and the camera will follow your movement and slowly catch up to you. Or sport mode, do it fast, and then you're back on your way. I think the next thing maybe is like the orbit.
Oh yeah.
So something where you see a camera like pan around your subject. I'm sure you get like the idea is an arch or an orbit of some sort. So it's just about keeping your subject in the middle of your frame or wherever you're trying to place them, but trying to keep them in like stationary in the same point, keeping that steady movement going and completing like an arc around. And that works for like whether you've got something in the center of your frame or like where you're sort of just trying to like pan around someone a little bit and then show more of your exterior there. That is something which looks really good and stable on a wide focal length. If you want to go longer, it's more impressive because you get that parallax effect where the background moves loads faster. And we do have like the thing, so we can show you 2 clips to show the difference.
Yeah. You said, didn't you, like if you're zooming in and trying to do that orbit, like if you're cropped in a bit more, it's a lot harder to do, isn't it?
It's much more difficult on a long lens, to create the arc movement while walking around someone and keeping them in the center of the frame. But if you're moving slowly enough, if your steps are measured enough, it's all right. You can absolutely do it. That does look really good. I mean, it looks good in a long focal length or in a wide one. Long, you just get more dramatic movement of the background, and obviously you get like more shallow depth of field, which obviously you know about. But depends what you're going for. I mean, sometimes you want to do all that movement on a wide lens because you're showing the inside of an event or something like that, or an exterior of somewhere. But yeah, that's the sort of difference. You get 2 really different looks from doing the same move just on a different focal length.
And then are you doing that in real speed or like what?
So I tend to film everything on at least 50 frames, unless it's where you're definitely having sound sync to it, where I'll do, because this camera can do 4K, it's not necessary most of the time. I feel like you get more detail in your final product, and you get the option to crop in. But I do 4K because this camera only does 4K in regular speed, or 25 or 24 frames. Then I will shoot an interview on 24, 25, and I will shoot any other B-roll I'll do in slow motion, because anything that you're using with a gimbal, you have any bumps in it or anything, you're going to get more usable footage by slowing it down. The only thing is just like, does it call for it, or do you notice, if someone is walking and looks at a really strange speed or something, then it's just making sure it stays natural feeling.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Then I guess you did you showed us a little bit in the house, where you kind of did the shot from the bottom, and then you
Okay.
drag.
So
I've got a bit more space now,
so
so they
that's
can
holding
see.
the trigger, yeah.
Mhm.
So holding the trigger here, it will stay level. The camera will stay at the same point where you left it when you move down, swing up. Now we've got some shots from the other day where we're moving down the street, and I'm doing the same thing, just sort of pushing in and then a big swing up, and you get such a high quality shot from that feels like a crane or the start of a drone shot or something like that, where it does feel quite impressive for such a small bit of kit you can hold with one arm.
Yeah. And it can make like a really bland shot a bit more interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, we are just walking down the street. There's no one in shot or anything, but it's just a shot of the road. But I feel like it looks nice because, you know, you've got all that detail. And something that helps as well is while you're staying low, you stay as close to your foreground as possible. This is going to move faster, and again, that is just going to add to the feel when you move up. You're like it feels like you're going much faster than you are. So
Great.
cool. So what else did we do? We did like a push in, we did a sort of orbit, and I think those things then start applying to everything else that you do. You start thinking of moves that you can do where you start on one thing, do your reveal, just planning those moves, putting those things together. I mean, the other thing that this has, which is always fun to do, is that you can change the settings. So you've got 3 spots on here, 3 user modes, where you get a phone app with it, which I have, but we're using my phone to film on right now. But there's a phone app with it where you set the different settings for these different axes. You don't have to get too involved with it. It's pretty good straight out of the box, but you can set it to do, I guess people refer to it as like an inception sort of roll or something, where you can move at like 360, well, like a full 360 round like this. When you record that,
Oh wow.
you can then make some quite nice transitions. If you're doing that, rotating the same way, moving on one shot on another.
So wait, how did you do that?
So right now, all I've done is there's some settings which are mentioned in almost every thing to do with the Ronin. You'll find these settings where it tells you about this roll. What you can't see is that this number 3 is lit up. I have it set to number 3, so I can do that. When you press the button, it will cycle through those modes. But I've just set that. It's I think it's one setting to do that in the app. You just go to, like, you have all the axes on NA not applicable, apart from the roll, which is set to roll, I think. And then
So what would you use that for?
so I've used it at events. It's just it gives a shot a bit of extra something. It's good for a transition. Once you get one of those and you can do that, it's hard not to overuse it. But the main thing is to only do it when you really want to. But I've used it on filming bands and events where I walked into a dance floor from about 3 different angles, holding like this, just make sure it's on the right mode. Right, okay, so I walked into a dance floor like this. There's loads of people dancing, doing this mode, and then I do it from like 3 other different angles, and then I cut all those together in the video, and then like did the cut on each beat, and it felt quite nice doing that kind of thing. Like quite a nice shot in the end. You can also like download a load of transitions where you'll get like the sort of radial glow kind of thing, and if you put 2 of those together with that, it can feel sort of seamless, like going from one place to another.
Nice.
It's also useful to do things like, so when I was shooting the gig at the Brixton Academy, I think I had it doing that same mode but looking straight up. So then we're just rolling in a circle like that. Because it had like quite a nice ceiling. Just put it straight up again. Yeah, so it had like a really nice like architecture in there. So I was doing little circular moves like that.
Right.
It just gives you a bit of something extra.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think, are there any other moves that we didn't sort of talk about?
We did some like focus stuff, but again, that's probably something that you want to be able to have a look at, isn't it? So I don't really think that they can do that. Is there any kind of moves that you guys have maybe seen online that you're kind of unsure how they've actually done it, that maybe Mike could explain to you guys how to do? No.
Are we still connected?
Yeah, we're still connected. They come on off mute when they want to talk.
Okay. Cool.
All right, well, is there anything else that we could
I mean, I don't know about what we can show right now, but you can work this remotely as well from your phone. So I was shooting a band, and I had them all sort of looking into the middle, and I had this really wide, and I was just operating this by my phone, where I could like set and then like do like turn around, like so it feels like you're right in the middle of the action, but you don't have to be there yourself. And you can also with the app set things like time lapses and things as well, so you can set it to move from one point to another. You can set a load of points with it. So do a little time lapse. It'll move very, very slowly, but give you a nice move.
And then how long does like a battery of them kind of last? Like
the battery on this is great. I think you get about 12 hours out of this. I've never had it go on a job. Always have it charged up the night before. Never like worked so much that the battery dies. It seems to last quite a long time. The band that I was just talking about, we shot like 8 videos for them. They were sort of like a function band that just wanted a new like repertoire filming for this year. And yeah, I think we were there for about 9 or 10 hours, and I think the battery was on like almost half when we packed in. So yeah, you can get quite a lot of use out of this one. I think the smaller the gimbal, the smaller the battery pack, the less time you get. But yeah, I think you get about 12 hours.
great.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So well, the battery will outlast the battery on the camera for sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Mike. Was that all useful for you guys?
Yeah, it was.
That was really useful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really liked
Yeah,
it.
it was really good. Thank
I really
you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you, Mike,
Okay.
and thank you guys
Thank you.
for all coming on.
Thank you.
Thank
Masterclass.
you.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah, best of
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 See ya.
Bye.
Bye.